Hey guys, welcome to another episode of my channel. Today we are also going to talk about Docker, but subject for today is port mapping. So what I want to do, I want to use my server application from previous episode, but I'm going to use Docker Compose in order to create network too. And I want to access that server but from my local machine. That means that in this case our server is not going to communicate with another Docker container from the same network. It's actually going to communicate with outside world. And I'm not going to use anything fancy for this purpose. I'm just going to use my server written in Python from previous episode and telnet application. So what we need in order to enable our application that works inside of Docker container to communicate with outside world, we need to expose some port. And how we are going to do that? I'm going to navigate with sudo nano to server Docker file, and in here I'm going only to add one command, expose. And what I'm going to expose? I'm going to expose port that my application uses. So that is port 11555. I'm going to write this out and we are done with Docker file. Now we are also going to use a nano, but in here we are going to deal with Docker compose YAML. And by the way, there are a few more ways to do this. I'm going to show you with Docker Compose. In this case, I'm just going to change this port mapping. So what this actually means that when we access port 11555 on our Docker container, we are going to access port 11555 on our server, but I'm going to change that just for the purpose of this example. I'm going to change this to port 80. So what I'm going to do with telnet, I'm going to access port 80, but then we are going to be redirected and we are going to connect to port 11555 on our server. And I'm going to write this out, going to exit, and finally I'm going to use Docker Compose build. All right, we have our images. And now, in order for this to work, we have to use Docker Compose app in order to build that network that we just created. When you build your network manually, you don't have to do this part, but for now I have to. You see, I have a network created and two containers, KST client 1 and KST client server 1. All right. So now what is going to happen if I use telnet at this moment? Let's see. So if I call telnet with my local IP address, so 192.168.0.26, that is address of my Zima board, and I want to communicate through port 80. If I press enter, you see I'm able to connect, but I'm not receiving anything. That is because our server is processing only one connection, and that connection is already taken by our client. So in order for this to work, what we have to do, I'm going to exit from telnet, and I'm going to call sudo docker container ls. First, I'm going to stop my client with a sudo docker container stop, and I'm going to provide container ID of my client. Give it a moment. This is not fast process. All right, and I'm going to restart server. All right, I'm going to paste this. And we are done. Now if I call telnet with 192, so my local IP address 168.0.26 on port 80, we are going to start receiving messages from our server. So we are getting value of counter. So guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you learned something new and interesting. So please like, subscribe, and see ya!